Live from the Fight Shop, New Mexico, it's the DC Life Uncensored. I'm Michael Frankel, and today we have Alex Holguin joining us. Fight Week,
everybody?
Winter War. Thank you for the time, sir. How you doing?
Thank you for having me here. I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great. For you, it's Fight Week. Weight cut time, how bad is that?
Not really. I've never had an issue with the weight. I'm 6 pounds off. I'm good. I'm excited, just ready to go. Final tunes this week.
So, insider information, you've had a lot of opponent changes for this camp. How does that affect you?
You know, it doesn't really affect me. I'm just focused on the fight. Focused to get that W. Doesn't matter who they put in front of me. I'm there to do my job.
Farley, Serrano?
Yes, something. Serrano, Farley.
Serrano, Farley. What do you know about him coming out of Farmington, right? Do you know anything else about your opponent?
I got a little info from Yoruba.
Mm-hmm.
He told me he knew who he was. He had maybe like 2 fights or something like that. He has 2 hands. That's all I can say. Honestly, I mean, I'm here to do my job. I'm here to fight. I've been in there with people that have a lot of experience. My last fight with John, he had what, over 13 fights more than me, and I thought I did a pretty good job.
Totally dominated that fight. But how do you head into a fight now blind? What's that like? Have you done that before?
Actually, yeah. You know, when I fought, who was it? I think it was my 4th fight. The guy was making his debut. He had no amateur fights, and I was blind too. So, and we went in there, and he was a little awkward. We adjusted, and we got the knockout. So, well, I'm not gonna say I'm gonna get the knockout, but if it's there, I'm gonna take the opportunity.
So, for Serrano, we've heard then Farmington, small place.
Yeah.
Definitely he's been MMA and boxing. He's had experience in both. So, do you kind of expect then a brawler or someone to come out to rush you?
Probably, yeah. He's probably going to come out and try to see if I can take a punch, I guess, maybe. We can see, but, I mean, I've been sparring with some bigger guys, so I'm ready, I'm excited.
You're ready, you're excited. Now let's touch on that last fight. Outdoors, raining. Did any of those elements pay any factor to you guys up there? Was it too hot or humid?
No, you know what? I thought it was perfect. The humidity, it was cold. It was cold after the fight, after we got done. But during the fight, I was fresh. It was nice. I liked it.
And then
except walking into the ring, our shoes were soaked, and I was a little skeptical about slipping or something.
Right, how bad was that? We saw you guys on the grass, kind of sliding. Everyone's tracking piles of grass into the ring. It's something different to have to deal with.
Yeah, it is. It was something different. It's exciting. It was fun. I thought it was fun, and then the videos that everybody took of me, the steam was coming out. It looked pretty dope. So, when we headed up there, we were trying to drive around town looking for the park. Were you surprised it was just like right there on the... They're like, you can't miss it, and they really meant it. If you hadn't been there in Grants, you didn't know, but they're like, really? No, it's on Main Street. Yeah. You know, we went the day, I think it was the day before. No, it was that Wednesday for that press conference. Yeah. And they were telling us it's literally on Main Street, and I was like, huh? So we ended up passing by, and I looked at the park, and I was like, well, really, they're going to do it right here? But it came out nice. I thought the venue was nice. I mean, first outdoor that I've done, it was nice. The elements never play nice during those affairs. But then, what was it like, such a defensive opponent, and it was some great rounds for you? Yeah, you know, John is John. I've known him, I knew who he was since amateurs. We were supposed to fight in amateurs, but it never happened. I was hitting him with everything, and he just kept smiling. Is that daunting for you? No, you know, it is, you know, because you hit him, and he just looks at you and smiles and keeps coming, and you're like, damn, like, what more can I do? But, you know, I stayed with my work, I stayed busy. I ended up dropping him. I caught him with I switched up, I caught him with the right hook, I ended up dropping him. People say it was a trip, but I have video that proves different. And now, where do you go heading into the end of the year, this fight, and thinking about next year? What are some goals, what are some aspirations, how active are you hoping to be? You know, we have some fights in the works for this coming year. I'm staying busy, coming out of this camp into the fights, staying busy, going back into camp. I just want to stay busy next year. Hopefully try to get signed. Somebody notices me or something. I want to I gotta make a move this year. That's my goal.
And then talking about, you know, moving to those upper echelon leagues and looking around, what have you been seeing now? PBC, you know, HBO shows, everything's been picking up.
Yeah, it's crazy. There's so much boxing, you can't even watch it all in one day. This past weekend, that Daniel Jacobs and Peter Quillen.
Right, and you told us actually you had Jacobs. A lot of us had Quillen. I'll say I was wrong.
No,
what made you think that Jacobs was going to win?
You know, it's just his technique, his skill. He's really skillful. And he can pack a punch too when he wants to. That one loss, I mean, it was early in his career, but he proved wrong this weekend.
And then who are some other guys out there that you've really seen that you've been impressed with watching as a fan?
You know, me as a fan, me personally, I'm pretty sad that Mayweather lost. That Mayweather retired, I mean, that's, honestly, that's one of my idols in the boxing game, just because of his smartness in the ring, his ring intelligence. But besides that, you have Gennady Golovkin, Chocolatito, Islandi Lara, Canelo, of course.
Right.
I'm kind of iffy on him, but...
So what are you seeing now, and how much does that motivate you then, watching these performances, and then you're going to have your chance here to get in the ring? How does that motivate you seeing them?
I mean, it motivates me because I want to be where they're at. I want to get to that level where I'm on TV, people are chanting my name, people know me around the world. That's where I want to be. That's my goal.
And out of watching those guys, who's the ones that you think, oh, I want to take this from his game and, you know, implement it into myself?
You know, Triple G, those body punches. I love that. I love his body work. His last fight with Lemieux, you guys saw those left hooks. They were killer. And Chocolatito too.
Right.
The way he sits in the pocket, moves his head. A lot of people think he's getting hit, but he's avoiding a lot of those punches.
And then for you now, what does it mean being a pro? More than 6 fights under your belt, amateurs are way behind you, you feel like a pro athlete.
You know, it's still sinking in, I'm going to be honest with you. It's a whole different game from the amateurs. Those smaller gloves, no headgear. You feel the punches a little more, but my first fight, the first time I got hit, I knew that's what I wanted to do. Right when I got touched, I knew it was what I wanted to do. So I'm excited. I mean, I'm looking towards the future. I want to be remembered. Maybe somebody great that came out of Albuquerque, just like everybody else, just like Johnny, Danny. We have Holly now. She's a incredible athlete. I mean, I gotta give it to her. She's what, 19-time world champion in boxing, and now the UFC champion. And then we have John Jones training out of here. It's crazy. We have a lot of people. Fidel.
Right, and then who are some guys, because you're there in the boxing world, you see the amateurs, who are some guys that people haven't heard of that they should keep an ear out for, this next generation coming? Because Joe was talking about the press conference, though you weren't able to be there because of work, but you're going to showcase the amateurs at Winter War II for a 4-hour segment, and it's that people aren't talking about the future, well, we're going to show it to you. So who are some guys you know?
You know what, I've been away from the amateurs. I haven't really gone to a lot of shows, but is it Aaron Perez?
I think so.
It's Aaron. When he turns pro, he's gonna be somebody to reckon with. And then we have somebody out of the Perez camp too. His name is Damien. He's pretty good too. He's 15 or 16. He's 65. He's pretty good. That's honestly, I mean, I haven't really been around the amateurs a lot, so I can't really.
So when you left it behind, you left it behind.
I mean, it's just the amateurs, they do it. I'm barely getting out of work, so I just want to go home and I want to relax. You know?
It's time for you to go rest. Well, then let's talk about you a little bit more. Momentum, the win streak, 4 fights in a row now. What do you do to continue it? And does it feel something different having momentum build and getting the confidence as the rounds go by?
You know what? The momentum is nice, but I'm still hungry. I'm not content with what I've done. I want to keep pushing forward, keep getting better, keep improving my skills. Just last fight, everybody kept telling me, hey, you're fighting John. He's never been done, he's never been stopped. I proved to everybody I can box, I can angle, I have other skills other than just going in there and punching somebody. That's just my motivation, is getting better,
Then how much fighting a guy like John was that also a mental war to not get into a brawl? Because he wants to be able to, you get frustrated hitting him and uncork something, so how much of a mental growing process was that? Keep moving, keep angle.
Yeah, you know, that's what we actually, through the whole camp, that's how we worked on me, Serge, and Flory. Just moving, keep my jab out there, keep throwing punches. Don't stand in front of him, don't stand in the pocket. Even though I did a couple of times. But I mean, you're going to do that eventually. So, but that was it. I mean, I kept working.
And then this fight, co-main event?
Yes, sir. That's what I think.
We believe so.
Yeah,
it's not been official,
right?
but we believe so. So how far do you think you are before you get that spotlight? We know you want the main event.
I do. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. We don't know. Hopefully maybe in 2-3 fights more. Maybe Joe will put me as the main event. I know I can bring a lot of people in. I have a lot of ideas to bring a lot of people in. Me, I own my own business with my dad, so we have a lot of business ideas that we could create to bring more people in. We're just waiting for the opportunity for it to come forward.
So we're enterprising here now. We're not just on the fight game. We're enterprising. We're leading with something. We're promoting. So it's the Winter War. It's this weekend. You got to get down to the sports complex. 5 points. Got a prediction on how your fight ends?
No, you know, I'm not gonna predict anything. I'm just there to do my job. If the knockout comes, it comes. Something happens. I mean, he has 2 hands. So we'll see what happens. I'm just ready.
Alex Holguin, we got to thank you for the time. You got people that you need to thank, shout out to?
Yeah, you know, I want to give a shout out to my coaches, Serge, Flory, my wife, my family, my sponsors, Lupon Communication, John Thomas Jewelers, Evolution Tools. Thank you, everybody. And come out December 12th. It's going to be a great show.
Chavez Promotions presents Winter War. We'll see you guys down there.
Thank you.
The Fight Shop New Mexico in the Montano Plaza Shopping Center, located off Coors and Montano.
Michael Frankel. I'm just here to remind you guys always to check out CageMinds.com. Locally, globally, nationally, your source for MMA, boxing, kickboxing. We got news, interviews, and results from all the local coverage that we get and national. Tons of great stuff. Keep up with us at Facebook, Cage Minds Combat Sports News, Instagram, Cage Minds CSN, and Twitter, Cage Minds MMA. Visit CageMinds.com.
Welcome back to this week's The DC Life Uncensored. I'm your host, Salmora. Michael Frankel. You just got done talking with Alex. There's this fight coming up December 12th. There's also more fights, and you called it your Hanukkah.
This is my Hanukkah gift from the UFC. Mazel tov.
Let's go ahead and jump into the Thursday card, correct?
Thursday, all on Fight Pass. A Thursday card, it's special for the UFC.
Yeah.
My recollection, I can't remember the last Thursday fight night that they had, right? But going to be in Las Vegas, first the 2 shows back-to-back at the small venue, the Cosmopolitan. And in the main event, you got Paige Van Zandt and Rose Namajunas. Love seeing the women up there, 2 top straw weights. This, puts one, I think, a fight away from a title shot. And I'm psyched for this one, really. What are your thoughts?
Are they trying to build a new Ronda Rousey? In the sense of the blondes coming in, good scrapping, good looking 2 women. I mean, are they?
They were trying to capitalize off of marketing Paige Van Zandt about a half a second after she stepped foot into the octagon. I mean, she has a Reebok sponsorship. I mean, Conor McGregor, Johnny Hendricks, and Paige Van Zandt were the first people to get these, along with Rousey. It's her looks. It doesn't hurt that she's a beast and only getting better working with Team Alpha Male. She's not just a pretty face. She has really improved her skills, and her win over Kaylin Curran was highly impressive. That's when I think a lot of people started really taking note of her. And then also you had the win over Felice Herring, so she's beat bona fide people in the division. obviously they're capping marketingly off of her and the blonde boyfriend that's also supposed to be on the card.
So yeah, we'll talk about him. So are you picking Paige over Rose?
Actually, I'm taking Rose.
That's my gut feeling also, is I think Rose is going to be a little bit too much for her.
Rose, I just look at her background. So much time with the Pettis camp, learning her striking. Now being up in Colorado, such a diverse camp. And let's not mention that she's a tremendous submission artist right now. Yeah. Probably the best in the strawweight division, really. And I think that's where we see that she's great at something, and I'd say Paige is solid at everything. So I'm giving Rose the advantage, and I believe she wins the fight via submission.
From outsider looking in, Rose just looks a lot stronger. She looks a lot tougher.
And also she has the mental edge. She's just been through so much more. She has no quit in her. And we don't know if Paige has all that.
Yeah, it seems a little too premature to figure out if Paige has that or not. And we'll find out, I guess. I guess we really will. This is a good test for her.
This is
if
a huge test.
If she can pass it, fantastic. But I don't see it happening just based on the outside looking in. Speaking of Paige's boyfriend, Sage, he recently had some headlines saying that they left
TriStar. It's mind-boggling. Who knows where he's going, but does he have the tools to beat Cody Pfister? I believe he does. Cody is tough as nails. I've seen them in those fights, but he's a striker and he likes to use his boxing. I think that Sage is going to have too many weapons in the arsenal. Then again, he could get stuck with a punch.
Do you think it's a good thing for his father to be guiding his career at this stage, at the highest level of the sport? Because you look at father-son dual teams, and they don't always they get them to a certain level, and then I feel like you have to kind of let your son go with somebody else.
This is revolutionary for MMA, right? Because this is more of a boxing thing. A boxing thing. So I'm like, the only father I could think of at this level that's getting involved is Stephen Thompson's dad.
Yeah,
has had a lot to do with his career, but he's not fully in control of it. Antonio McKee and AJ McKee. Yeah, AJ. Well, and AJ's got like 3 fights right now. So I think it's different, and only time will tell. We can't neglect and say totally that he won't be out there, because you can't just say that Father Northcutt's leading it. There has to be somebody in there for the jits, somebody in there for the wrestling, and if there's not, that will show in him getting an L on his record. Because the father can have, the main control, and even he's been doing his karate career, so obviously he has the striking, but he obviously has to, give up some of that power to get the grappling, to get everything else to work.
But there's thoughts that are saying that the practices were a little too much for him.
Well, he's supposed to be Superman, and these practices broke him. That looks very bad on him. And Cody Pfister's confidence is growing right now.
Yeah, I mean that's why I don't count Cody out. I mean, if those practices are too hard, you're talking about a guy who has a world champion, who had Rory McDonald contending for a world championship.
Has guys like Mike Ricci,
guys from Albuquerque rotating out there to go train out there, and I've never heard anybody say that they were pushed too hard in MMA practice, whether it be here or TriStar. So that threw a red flag in my opinion. This guy, we haven't seen how far he can get pushed, and I think he is in the same as Paige Van Zandt. We don't know their toughness. We don't know their mettle. We don't know, and honestly, that might show. That's a red flag to me.
It's really going to
be broken.
There's also just a thought. You got to look at it, how hard they're trying to push him. He's on a main card. He's above fights like John Howard and Tim Means, veterans, guys that we've seen forever, and he's above them on the card. So they have a lot of hopes that they put him in the right position for this fight. And I think they're almost they're pushing the wrong person in this event. If you wanted to push a young, outstanding talent that's on this card, Aljamain Sterling is on this card. He's top 10 in the bantamweight division. He's right there on the cusp, taking on a Johnny Eduardo who's coming off of a knockout of Eddie Wineland. That's the fight they should be pushing. And I think they're only hurting Sage Northcutt because we are talking about what happened to him in a training camp. I think if he was down further on a preliminary card, you might be able to sweep this under a little further. I mean, I almost felt bad for the guy that he came up through Legacy so quick. Yeah. The world is surmounting, and we'll see what he's made of, because there's all the pressure in the world now. on top of this week, we're going to hear these questions. Well, what was it like at TriStar, and why did you leave? How does he handle the media?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that would be the first question coming out of my mouth. I mean, I'd want to know, why were you broken? Because to me, that's being broken. If that's too much of a training camp for you, if that's too hard, I understand right fit, wrong fit, but you were there for a while. And the excuse is that they are going a little bit too hard. Something's got to give, and unfortunately, if you go to any camp, I guess it's going to be a little bit too hard for him. And maybe from the looks of the embedded and the videos, the behind the scenes of him with his dad at their house and stuff like that, it looks like they come from a good chunk of money. So maybe they have their own training facility. Who knows? You know what I mean? I don't know what's going on out there. But it looked like they could do their own training, their own setup, and whatnot, and bring people in, a la Brock Lesnar, a la boxers do that all the time. You know, we talked about Hector Munoz from here. He travels and goes to different camps and works out with the guys. So I mean, they bring in tailor-made people to help them get ready for their fights. Maybe that's what they're doing.
It could be. We'll see how he goes. I still got Sage winning this one. Like I said, I think the next fight is really when he's going to get tested. He's in the 55 division. You can only stay out of the Sharks for so long, and I think the next one's when he gets a loss.
The next one, he headlines a Fox Sports 1 card?
Who knows? I almost see them saying that he's going to headline, probably a Fox Sports 1 fight night somewhere in Texas.
Yeah,
somewhere in Texas.
I mean as much as I laugh about it and stuff, I mean that's the way this sport is heading.
And then you also look at the card and you see another guy that could be headlining soon, Elias Theodoro, another guy they're trying to capitalize on his looks, and he has a huge test, Thiago Santos, so it's grappler versus striker, but Santos, we've seen him be defeated, so there's another guy that they're trying to capitalize on the looks. We've seen him on Fox Sports 1, the big flowing hair and stuff, so that's what this is. There's a lot of pretty on this card, but there's also the nitty-gritty. I love the Michael Chiesa versus Jim Miller co-main event that no one's talking about, right?
I think Jim Miller's gonna gut it out.
Think he guts it out?
I think so.
I hate to bet against Jim Miller because he does pull things out. We've seen his submission game. If someone could outgrind him, it could possibly be Chiesa. We see him, show improvements, but he just gets a little too wild in his striking, and that's one of the hesitants that'd be against him. Miller, possibly too much experience. I can see it going that way. I think Miller, with his experience, Chiesa gets too wild out there in some points, but he could catch a submission in a transition if he does get the win.
So right now we're saying Rose. We're both in agreement. Jim Miller. You're saying Sage. I'm going to go with the upset Cody. Even though it's not really an upset to me because he is more of the MMA veteran.
Right, and significant amount of fights.
And I just think he's going to outgrind him. I think he's going to break him. I think if this guy gets in his face and if push comes to shove and this fight goes a little bit longer than a round or two, you're going to see something happen. I really believe that. I think they're showing signs of weakness already by leaving TriStar like that.
I am, less high on that pick, as we've been talking about, than I was before, but I'm still going to take Sage. And like I said, I think Theodoro in the last one.
Yeah, and I'll go with you on that. And let's talk about one more, the prelim. John Howard versus our guest, Tim Means, on the show 2 weeks ago. He talked about how he learned his lesson from his last fight of, hey, look, if they give me time, I'm going to take it. So it's a growing experience. I'm excited to see him. How do you think that fight plays out?
I think that one plays out with it going to decision. I got Means winning the decision with his takedown defense. I believe Howard's not going to like the striking, not going to like the range, try to get in there on the legs and look for a double leg takedown. He's been doing that quite recently in his fights, and I think that kind of keeps going, and I think Means stacks up too many points with his striking in the elbows.
I think Tim's going to be too much for him standing up as well. The height difference is going to play a big, huge factor in that sense of the striking and the distance and not being able to take those double legs and the closing the distance. The second he gets even in striking range, I think Tim's going to pepper him up.
Pop.
Yeah, so I say Tim's going to close him out in 2 rounds. I think he may finish him. I don't think it's going to be a decision. I think Tim's going out there to make a statement that, hey, I made a mistake in my last fight, but that's all it was just a little mistake. And I'm here to make noise at 170.
Then no prediction on it, but what do you think of the other fight I spotlighted there, Johnny Eduardo and Aljamain Sterling?
It's much needed for their division, and we'll see how it plays out. It's going to be an exciting fight.
Right? Can Sterling strike with such a good Muay Thai guy? If he can, puts him possibly in that desperately needed, what we need contenders up there at bantamweight.
And we need that in bantamweight, and then also in the flyweight division.
Right, exactly. So we got a huge opportunity there. And that's Thursday. Let's go to Friday.
Friday, it's a little bit shaky on the card because they're still trying to hold us into suspense because Tough 22 finale hasn't happened on Wednesday of this week, so midweek. Let's go ahead and talk about the Joby Sanchez fight.
We got Joby Sanchez, who's taking on now a late replacement. Last episode we had him on, and we talked about him fighting Justin Scoggins. Scoggins has now had to pull out, and it is Jean Herrera, who's coming off of a loss to Ray Borg. So short notice, having to make it down to flyweight. I think this is an easier fight for Sanchez. It's 8 days notice. We don't know when Herrera was planned, how much he's training. This is really a big test for him. For Sanchez, it is a different opponent, so it's a different look, but I do believe he'll have the skill set. He was still looking to keep the fight off the ground and to be able to beat him up with his striking.
It's interesting. This got me excited just because of the common. They're 125ers. They're both from Albuquerque, and now they're facing a common opponent in Jean Herrera, and it was the grappling that really shined for Ray Borg and pushed him through. The striking, you saw some holes. You saw Jean really. I mean, in hindsight, I thought Jean was winning the striking against him, obviously, and so it's going to be interesting. If Sanchez makes a huge statement and finishes him off in one round, not saying that it's going to happen, but if he does, where does that put Joby?
That elevates him. Then you're talking about him top 15 easy. A big win, a big stoppage, anytime you're in the flyweight division, catapults you several steps up the ranking. I mean, we talk about, are you a top 20 flyweight? Well, if you're in the UFC, you're a top 20 flyweight. I don't know if there's that much depth. It's maybe 25 guys or so on the roster. So a win does everything for you. It literally jumps you up half the pack when you get a win. He's coming off of 1, getting to 2. It definitely jumps him up to the top 15. And heck, if they're going to come back to, New Mexico at some point, that would set up a great matchup to get a couple local guys against each other.
Do you think they should do something like that?
Right now, I don't think that it would happen because I don't see it being beneficial for Borg just because he's looking at guys ahead of him. For Sanchez, it would be beneficial because Borg is ranked ahead of him, but Borg wants guys in the top 10.
Sure, absolutely. Let's go ahead and talk about the main event.
The main event, you got Frankie the Answer Edgar, the former lightweight champion, taking on Chad Money Mendez. It's the featherweight battle. And I'll say, like I said it before, I believe that Mendez is just a refined version of Gray Maynard. That he is the best ever that Gray Maynard could ever expect to be, but Frankie Edgar's still better, and I think he's going to win on a decision. Too much speed, too much angles, and too much, versatile attack.
Well, I know we're fight week, and there's this fight, and then there's also the UFC 194 main event. If one of those guys drop out, how crucial is it that one of these guys step in?
If all of a sudden Aldo or McGregor dropped out this week, I think Frankie Edgar gets shipped right into the fight. He's the one coming off the win. He's the one with the win streak. This is, Mendez's chance to say, hey, that other fight never happened with McGregor. You're right back into it if you win this one. But if there was an injury, it's Edgar.
Awesome. What a fight that would be.
Right.
Either way.
And I've said it before. You put Mendez, Edgar, or Aldo against McGregor, I'm taking one of those other 3.
Now let's go ahead and let's go real quickly to Saturday's card. And we talked about the Jose Aldo and Conor McGregor. What's your pick and thoughts on that fight?
I've said it before on Combat Sports Weekly last week. I got Aldo via knockout. He's coming to destroy in this. And knockout can mean several different things. It's going to come off of the leg kicks. It's going to be due to his combinations. And I said, again, the biggest problematic thing that McGregor can do is if his right hand, sticking out as he likes to do, if it's able to catch Aldo's jab, this fight totally changes. But I'm thinking that Aldo's going to put too many combinations together and use his kicks, and he has to get this fight finished. If it goes longer, though, it could be to his detriment if he expends too much energy because he's too angry at Conor.
Sure. And the awkward stance of McGregor. the way he stands out there, kind of with his legs sticking out, I think that's just asking to be soccer kid.
It's asking for it, and Aldo's been planning it. I can't wait to see it.
That's what's going to happen. Let's go ahead and talk about the UFC middleweight championship. Chris Weidman, Luke Rockhold. What's your thoughts?
I can't wait to see that fight. I'm a little more giddy about that one than I am Aldo McGregor, because I think that their skill sets can very much cancel each other out. They're the two biggest middleweights really that we got. So strength and size, which they normally have over the guys. On paper, Weidman is a better wrestler. What we've seen in actuality is that Rockhold would have the better submission skills, even though the Sarah Camp will tell you that Weidman is phenomenal. So it comes down to the striking. And Chris Weidman made a great point in the conference call that we put up on CageMinds.com from UFC 194. You would have said that, Anderson was a better striker than me, that Machida's a better striker than me. People are saying that Rockhold's a better striker than me. Well, it's nothing I haven't heard before and that I haven't proved wrong. The game changer for me is the Rockhold body kicks if he can land them.
If he can land them. I think it's the classic East Coast versus West Coast. It's almost like the rap battle, and I'm going to have to say it's the East Coast that's going to come out and steal. I just think he has too many too many tools in the tool belt for this fight, and he's
a one common opponent.
Yeah.
Rockhold's been knocked out by Belfort.
Yeah.
Weidman survived the onslaught to get a knockout victory. So
absolutely. Let's real quick. Let's talk before we got to go. Yoel Romero and Souza.
Next #1 contender, Jacare Souza. Yoel Romero, even though he's athletic, he's going to lose in the transition somewhere. He gets kind of wild. He starts running. He tries to overuse his athleticism. Jacare, too much experience. I'm going to take him to be the next #1 contender.
And I think it's going to be Yoel Romero.
Knockout?
I think he'll finish him up. I think he will. You are correct, though. I think on the ground, if the transitions are a little too wild, I think that's where Jacare shows his BJJ skills and finishes them off. What a weekend it's going to be. We also have that boxing event here locally. If you're a boxing head, December 12th.
Karen Event Center at the Sports Complex, 5 points. Josh Pitbull Torres in the main event. We had Alex Holguin with us earlier, co-main event. Ronnie Baca makes his pro debut. It's a double event. It's the Winter War. Amateurs start at 1. They're on until 5. Take an hour break. Doors are back open at 6. And at 7 you get that pro card. Cage Minds will have coverage for you on the website.
That's it for this week's edition of the DC Life Uncensored. Check out, we got a special photo gallery by Gomez Photo Works that you're going to get to enjoy on the way out of the Holly Holm extravaganza that happened here in Albuquerque. I know we didn't get to touch on it. We will touch on it. 20,000 people showed up. That isn't all of Albuquerque, but that was a nice chunk. So we'll go ahead and check that out and enjoy, and we'll see you next week. We've got a lot to cover next week on the DC Life Uncensored.